Hello, everybody. Let me just introduce myself. Hi, my name is Bolake Yusuf, and I'm a GP, and I'm also an entrepreneur. And I will go through a bit of my story. So I'm Dr. Falake Yusuf and I'm a GP. And as Funke said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm just going to get into the presentation because you'll get to know more about me as we go. So what I'm hoping to cover in this presentation today is to highlight some of the challenges that obviously we face, which I'm sure, Funke covers quite a lot during your sessions. And I think that's why you're all part of the group. Showcase some transferable skills, and how IMGs can see entrepreneurship as a way of thriving and not just surviving. And usually that's more like a mindset shift and some ways that you can get into entrepreneurship yourself. Why does this matter? So I think one thing that you would probably all agree with me is with medicine, and it's becoming more nowadays with the policy changes, the working life and just life in general. Like things are getting more expensive, more less disposable income. We're getting more stuck, in terms of in terms of our career, we just feel stuck. We feel we're not progressing. We all feel overworked and we all feel insecure. And that insecurity has gotten worse. And I remember, I think, where me and Funke first went was where we first met was a organization called Black Women in Health. And the person who founded it has actually emigrated to another country. And I couldn't remember what it is, but one day I was just at home with my mom and they were talking on the news about how doctors are not getting jobs easily anymore. The training numbers, the ratios for training specialties, training streams have increased a lot. And for one of the first times in a long time in this country, doctors are actually, not getting jobs. And I think a lot of people that went into medicine, um, let's not deceive ourselves. Some of us it was for the job security. Well, when I come out, there are always going to be people that are ill. There are always people going to need doctors, and there was that level of job security, and that's what kept us going. And my mom said, "Remember that day you did a speech for a group, and that was Black Women in Health, and you were telling people that they need that it's good for us to look for option B and not feel what do you call it, comfortable in what we have at the moment." And I couldn't remember that point, but it just shows how, and I hate to be right. I think that's what it is. And when she said, I said, I'm sad that I was right. And I'm also more sad that because I still got caught in that. Even though I said it, I still got caught in it. So we know that locum jobs have gone pretty much, especially for GPs. We know that, training numbers have gone up. People are looking for, are scared to finish training now because they don't know whether they're going to get consultant jobs. And all these things are looming over us, which it used to be only for minorities and IMGs. But I think increasingly now, even for people that grew up in this country, they're also facing these challenges. But as IMGs, even worse for us because we've got, it's not our country. We have all this adjustment to do. We already had all these bottlenecks in place. We had all these financial pressures for us, like, everything we had to do, we had to pay for it. I remember when my kids were younger, we had to pay for everything. We paid for wraparound care, we paid for childcare, where your colleagues will have their kids just go to their grandma's place during holidays. We didn't have that. You're paying for another holiday club. And it was like somebody's salary, whole salary was going into that, into just taking care of your kids, basically. And obviously, we still have family back home. So some people have come here, they are the breadwinners, and they still have to send money back home. So imagine all what the regular person is facing, plus the extra step that we have to go as IMGs, to actually just live a life as a medical person, and it becomes untenable to some degree, and then it causes that level of stress for people. And at the end of the day, people are then beginning to look at other options, isn't it? That, oh, maybe this medicine is not for me. I mean, if you're not at the level where you can emigrate, so you finished your specialty training and you've got your ILR, or your that's your indefinite leave to remain for anybody that doesn't know what that means, or you've got your British citizenship, you can't go anywhere. So you're kind of stuck. And traditionally, what people used to think about is, well, maybe I just leave medicine and go and do something else. And yes, that's good. But some people don't want to leave medicine because they really sincerely wanted to be doctors. Some people, became doctors by virtue of the fact that their family had to contribute money for them to go to school. They were the sacrifice for their brothers and sisters. And I know this because I know this happens. I'm Nigerian, so I know this happens in our countries. The stake of living medicine is so high, and you can't even turn to people and say, do you know what? I need an option. And for other people, so like somebody like Funke, for example, and even for myself, it was more of you need something more fulfilling. So I don't mind being a doctor, but I need something else to give me that joy, that I used to have in medicine, which is kind of being sapped out of medicine at the moment. So some people, it was either or. It's either I go to medicine or I don't, or I go and do something else. Some people come as well. It takes forever for you to get a job, and you're at home. Your wife. Usually, the men will have to get a job anyway when they come because they can't stay in this country without having the job. So you come in as the dependent, or let's not use wife. It could be the husband and be the dependent. So you come in as dependent, even though your partner is doing all the work, they're getting along with the career, you're at home, you're stuck because every time you make an application, you're not getting through. You're frustrated. You feel bad that you have to always ask your partner for money. Even worse for men, because obviously from where we come, men are usually the breadwinner. So you have to go and then you have to ask your partner. And you're like, look, I need to keep doing, I need to, I need to find something. Now, what if there was another option? What if you could actually do something of your own, but still do medicine at the end of the day? So you don't have to do medicine or not do medicine. You could do medicine and you could do it in entrepreneurship, and that comes with its challenges. I agree. But what if not doing medicine wasn't an option? What if you had to do medicine or you love to do medicine, but then you're like, oh well, I'm stuck in this career now. If and you hear this a lot on the wards, isn't it? That, oh, if I didn't do medicine, I'll be a beautician. Well, what stops you from being a beautician and being a doctor? Nothing stops you from doing it. It's all in our head. Okay, so just a bit of a disclaimer before we go ahead, because as I said, we've got an hour, maybe an hour and a half on here. So before anybody wastes their time, I just thought to put this out there. Entrepreneurship is not a rich quick scheme. And again, ask anybody who's a medic or even non-medic and is doing business. It takes a long time for you to get to that point where you're like, oh, I'm going to go and retire on the beach. I'm not going to do anything else anymore, and things like that. It takes a long time. And I think, the image that social media is portraying of what entrepreneurship is skewing people's idea of what they want to achieve from entrepreneurship. And I certainly find that a lot when people come to speak to me about entrepreneurship, and they're like, oh, I just want to, I want to leave my work in a year. And then we have to go through all this discussion about, my dear, if I had something like that, you wouldn't be talking to me today because I've been at this for years. So it is a means to an end, but that end takes time to reach to. So you need to be prepared for that. So if you think, you know what, she's going to come and tell me, how I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get six figures. Six figures is what we hear a lot online. I'm going to get the six figures, this amazing six figures in 3 months, in 90 days, or whatever they say. Please just leave the webinar. This is not for you. Those people are using your money to get to their six figures, I'm afraid. So yeah, just be careful of those people that have really good marketing. And they've done so much research, they know how to hook you in. And people like myself and other people that are doing the work, you find it hard to even get anybody to sign up with you, because I will tell you the truth straight away that I'm sorry, this is not for you. Also, if you're looking for me to say, oh, well, this is what, just do X, Y, Z, this is the formula, you're going to get rich tomorrow. Nope. And that's why I asked you before, what level of experience people have, because some people have started businesses and they are struggling. And there's something else you need to do when you're struggling. There's not that sometimes it's not you're missing something. It might be a few things that are missing, but it's also sometimes your perseverance, changing, tweaking one thing here, tweaking one thing there, which is something I do on the side as a business strategist. But there's no plug and play. There's no, this is what worked for Funke and this is definitely going to work for me. It might work for you, it might not work for you. It all varies. Also, obviously, you have to be ready to put in the work. Yeah. So again, for you to live that beach lifestyle, you have to have put in the work of a beach lifestyle. You have to be able to also, obviously, you have to cut down your expenses quite rapidly, and things like that. So you need to put in the work, I'm afraid. There's no, you sit down, you earn the money. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that in most times. And there is a lot of pressure. There is a lot of coping with failure. Entrepreneurship, you have one good days and nine bad days. Yeah, that's the way it works, right? And you feel, well, I'm a doctor. I read, for how many years I'm now a doctor. How hard can it be? As an entrepreneur, you have to be open, you're coachable, you're ready to learn. Because yes, it's not medicine, but in its own right, it's another discipline. So you have to be open and ready to talk. So I'm hoping everybody here has heard that. So I'm guessing we're all on the same page. Yeah. Nobody's expecting me to come and tell them how they're going to be six figures, because I'm not six figures, certainly. And there is a path to it, and we're on the journey. And this is why we're here, to show each other how to get on that journey, and how you can get support for it as well. So why do people like entrepreneurship? What is it about it? Why is everybody? So I've said all those negative things, and you're thinking that, so why are they all doing it? What's all this hype about entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship gives you more choices, and that's what it is. Now, choice comes there's something you have to give to get those choices. Yeah. So you have to give some things away, which is your time or your money, to get those choices. It gives you more control. And I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. That's what you see in people that are entrepreneurs, is that control. I can do this, I can do that, I can change this way. And I'm happy to take ownership whether it works or not. It gives you that fulfillment as well. Funke is doing, thriving in the NHS. It's not a charity. She's doing it, but she's building it. She's putting, change in the lives of people. You look around and you think, oh my goodness, this is the change I'm making in people's lives. This is, everybody is here because they feel I have value to give. There's nothing, six figures, seven figures can never replace that feeling that I have done this. I made, there's a bit of ego in business, unfortunately. You look around and you think, wow, everybody's here because I made this happen. I'm making this change. And, that is what we do these things for. But not only that, the skills that you get, and I will cover the skills later on. The skills it's just life skills generally. That's what you get from it. The other things that that you benefit as a person, so you have the and I think I should asterisk this financial security and independence. I think that takes some time to get to. That it depends on how much time. So if you're doing part-time medicine, part-time entrepreneurship, you probably are going to get there much longer, but it gives you some certainty. So say when the lockdown happened, for example, or when something else happened, I was like, you know what, I can't be bothered, because I knew there was something else. Like, worst case scenario, I put more time in what I'm doing. There are options out there, basically. I don't feel, and I think that's what it is. Like, you don't feel trapped. You don't feel stuck. Like, I said in that first, like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? That palpitation, sleepless night, anxiety. And we've all been through it at some point, when you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to feed my family tomorrow. Am I going to get a job? That's what this gives you. You know that if I graft harder, I will make this work, right? My family are going to go through a difficult patch, but it will work. Yeah. If anything happened to, myself or Funke today, and we can't do medicine anymore, well, guess what? We're just going to ramp up the time. We will go through some struggles. We'll go through some months where we will struggle, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But if you just consistently keep doing what we're doing on a bigger scale, you will then start reaping those rewards as you go. The transferable skills, as I said in the first one, so you get the leadership. Yep, we all go, yeah, who's going for leadership training in NHS? Oh, we're going for we sit down in a room every day, all these conferences, people tell us about these things. You go on the ward, you semi-use them. Nobody knows whether it works or not, because regardless of what we do in those leadership roles, we get promoted. So, there's nobody to come and check and say, oh, you've done this well, or you've done this wrong. Your business is you. You lead your business, even if you're a solopreneur. So I'm one man band, but I'm still going to employ like somebody to do some work for me, maybe some social media flyers, or get to speak to a printer or speak to a marketing person. That is leadership. That's you saying, this is how I'm going to plan my things, this is how I'm going to do, this is how it's going to work. And that's where that is where true leadership comes from. Self-leadership, to know that I've got a presentation tomorrow. I've got to, I've got a pitch tomorrow. I've got a Zoom tomorrow. I need to prepare for it. I need to make sure everybody's is got it. The link. I need to send reminders. I need to do this. I need to do that. That is leadership. That's self-leadership. And then you lead other people as well. And leadership again is a whole total different ball game. Not the kind of, low skill leadership we learn on the job. It's something, but this is even on another level. And you see the results very quickly. If your leadership is poor, your business goes down. So you will learn really quickly how to be a leader. Negotiation skills as well. So, how to broker things, how to, look at who can work for your business and how to speak to them, how to approach them. Resilience, as I said, there's lots of failure there's lots of failures you learn, but we don't even call them failures. They're learning patches. Failure is a negative mentality that we have from, didactic courses like, like medicine and things where failure is highly frowned upon. And I think because what would happen as a result of failure of a doctor is very catastrophic. So you're not allowed to fail. In entrepreneurship, business, real life, you need to fail because if you don't fail, you don't learn. Your failures or those things we call failures are the learning patches. That's where you learn. If everything is going well, you're not doing something, something is wrong. You can't get everything right. Even if you pay the most expensive coach in the world, like if you pay Jeff Bezos, if he does coaching to coach you to set up your own e-commerce store, he can never give you the blueprint to get to where he was without you failing. You will fail. You will face your own challenges and you have to overcome it. So coaching, courses, all those things, they don't take it away. They give you a smoother start, but you will still find your places where you're going to get your step setbacks. And problem solving, again, I've touched upon that. But those are skills we have in medicine, but you can still take them into entrepreneurship because then it will serve you well. And then obviously creativity and freedom. I mean, you can decide today that I'm going to start treating hypertension this way. Like you're going to get struck off. Well, this is not the way we set cannulas. Today, I'm going to decide this is how I'm going to set my own cannula. It doesn't happen in medicine. You have to follow the rules. You have to follow the protocol. Entrepreneurship, you can choose to do what you want. It's your business, And if you think this is the way it's going to work for me, go ahead. So those are the skills, and I'm not going to talk about them again. What do you bring into business? Now, there's nowhere I will work, there's nowhere I would walk into, and like I do a lot of networking, and I'm a business networking host as well. Anytime I go for a business networking, and initially I used to be scared to say I'm a doctor because I didn't want to be judged. But the minute I got comfortable with saying that, the kind of people that used to come to me were so different because everybody trusts a doctor. That's the truth. Forget how they talk to you in the ward, or if you're a GP, the way they talk down to you and you feel rude, they're rude to you, or you're being undermined, or the cleaner talk to you one way. Outside that kind of sphere, if you go out into any business, place, or you're trying to make a deal, and they know you're a doctor, people look at you differently because there's that innate trust of a doctor, and that innate trust comes out, and to a large degree you get trusted. And in business, we all know that salesmen are the people you don't want to trust, right? But when they know you're a doctor, they know that to some degree I can trust you a little bit. If they know that you're still working, they even trust you more. We also are dedicated. I mean, look at what we've had to do to get to wherever you are, even if you're here and you've only like just finished medical school, or maybe you're still in medical school, that level of dedication to do what we do more than everybody. I mean, we have to get the highest grades to get into university. We have to have the highest grades to get into this. That level of dedication, how many people have it and how many people are forced to use it for their own career progression? We have it. We will go for all these courses, even though they will not pay us back our study leave, they won't pay us back our study budget, we will still go, right? So all those kind of things, they keep us in good stead when we leave medicine. And maybe that's why I have so many, like, so much knowledge because I'm there. I'm like, oh, there's this thing you can learn how to do this. I'm there. You can learn how to, oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, let me see how I can use it. I want to do more. I want to do more, right? And then we're used to systems and processes. So even though, as I said earlier, you're creative, there's still some things you need to put in place as a to be successful in business, to make your business run smoothly. Yeah. So your systems, you have processes for the operations of your system. For the growth, then you need your creativity. So systems and processes you need for your business to function no quite normally, basically. So, what are the pathways for IMG? So, I've just listed quite a few. In fact, I'm recording a podcast at the moment for doctors in business, and I'm speaking to so many different people who are doing weird and wonderful things, and not just doctors. So, if you've got a spouse who is coming to the country and they're looking for work, I don't, it's not just doctors I help, but that's one thing in business, you have to niche down to something. But the thing is, there are loads of other things people are doing out there that you hear about, like, oh, how did you do it? So, I said I'm a host for a networking group. Now, the lady that set up this business networking group, she used to be a pharmacist, NHS pharmacist, and she got tired of it and she decided to look into things. So she started as a mom and toddler group. So for people who have kids here in this country, you have these groups where when you take your kids to this playtime and they'll do tummy time, leg time, whatever time they do swimming classes, those kind of things. So she started a local moms and toddler group, she was quite good. She did well, but the problem was she was tied to it. She was finding herself another job which she didn't like. And then she then went on and started doing a magazine. And then she did magazines, and that was so genius, though. So all she did was she was living in a village, nobody knew what activities were on, and things like that. She started a magazine. She started printing her own magazine. People can print off, so I think the idea probably came from her running this mother and toddler group. And then she then started doing the magazines to advertise whatever, activities were going on in that locality. And then that grew to people advertising their business. And now she has a networking group. That's all she does. So she has networking groups, almost 30 now. She as a, she had so many this just coming out of this year. And people just come to talk about their business. You pay a yearly subscription. You come, you meet, you network, you do business deals together. So she's created a meeting point for businesses that's value, and she's getting paid for it. And that's exactly what you want to do as a business person. You want to get paid for giving value. Yeah, there's nothing wrong in you getting paid. Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to find some way to create value for people and get paid for it. And all those kind of things is what I do with people do, with startup, because people are like, I'm not quite sure what to do, and I want to know what are things you're thinking about. So the other day, one of my colleagues, we actually went to medical school together. She called me and she said, oh, I used to be a mental health, she used to be a psychiatry registrar before she came here. She wants to do the business. She had already started making moves to do a business. And everything just went, because she came to this country, and she wanted to join me in one of the businesses I was doing, and I'll talk about that later. And I said, look, you've already started this. Why don't we do X, Y, Z? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? She's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And then she went away and she just, and I said, sometimes all you need is bounce ideas of somebody else, and you just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's true. I could do this. I've listed some of the most common things I know people do, but this is by no means an exhaustive list. And this is just to get you thinking about, oh, okay, this is what, and I'm sure you know other people that are doing things. You can literally do anything. I mean, the other day I saw he's a OT, occupational therapist, or maybe a nurse, and he does wood turning. So it's basically what we call carpenter in Nigeria, right? But we call it wood turning. That's what he does. And he makes all these amazing products. He's a British guy. He makes these lovely products that he sells, obviously sells them for, and he's still working. And he has that on the side. I was like, how did you get into his? He just likes doing things. He's just very handy. And one day he was looking at videos on YouTube and he just thought, I can do this. And he started doing it for fun. And now he's created a business out of it. So many things. But anyway, so the easiest that is accessible to you is your knowledge, right? So think of all the knowledge you've had since secondary school. Where can I do? So people do tutoring. Yeah. Now, social media, online, whatever you call it, has made life so easy for people to start businesses. But we overcomplicate the process. So you could do tutoring, get paid for it. You could be a coach. being a doctor is hard work. So you can be a life coach because of the kind of things we see at work, the kind of things we've been through. So with coaching, you know the truth about it, people don't really need don't really get a qualification for it. And I'm not saying you have to do that. I think you have to, I would say, I would say go and get ILM level 10 or whatever people go through before you start your coaching business. I would say understand the business structure, because for a coach, you just need to understand the business structure. And ethically understand, what am I bringing to people? So am I being a life coach? If you're a life coach and you're just helping people through life challenges, essentially. So people that go through this are usually like psychiatry trainees or people who've done some psychiatry experience. They're quite good at life coaching because they've got that mental health flair. Education and mentoring, tutoring, at the level of whatever, secondary school, university, medicine. You've done an exam, you know what it means. You can start your own group. Why not? You can mentor people. You don't even need to teach them about the exam. Maybe like, okay, I failed this exam like 2 or 3 times, and I know this is what people struggle with. I could just start a mentoring group and say, have you failed an exam before? Well, I've been there before. This is what helped me, and this is how I can guide you through the mindset of getting over the exams. You're not teaching them how to pass the exam. You're being the guide of how to get them over that challenge of passing the exam. And that's how I started as well with the things I did. Property investment, obviously, wellness, we all know all the things about health and wellness to a degree. I'm not a wellness expert, but I know some people out there are. Content creation, I think I should actually just put that on its own. That's now a really big one, isn't it? Content creation. Sorry. And yeah, social media. Talk about basic things, very basic things. Everybody wants to hear you because you're a doctor. There are people that conspiracy theorists out there saying all sorts of junk. You come there, you're the authority. I'm a doctor. This is what I think people should do. This is what I think, and people would listen to you. So you will still get trolls, trust me, but that's not where we're going to get distracted. We have something to give to people. But at the end of the day, whatever you do, it has to come from the heart. If it doesn't come from the heart, it would show. Okay. E-commerce, obviously, that's your Amazons and drop shippings and things like that. Selling books, you can write a book. You can do, people do PDF now, PDF of whatever, problem solving PDFs. But you could do a book. You can do a book of, Funke has a book about IMGs, how you can settle in her challenges. People are buying that book because it's valuable to them. How to pass, what's that exam you write? IELTS, how to pass IELTS. You can do that, you can do that on social media. You can do that on YouTube. You can write a book out of it. And that's how you create multiple sources of income. And network marketing. Now I'm going to divide the room on this one. You're either here or here. I love network marketing and I think the business model is great. And I do network marketing in the travel industry. And I have my reasons for doing that. And my reasons are lots of it. I mean, one is the amount of money you need to get in is very little compared to what you need to get into a lot of all these other things. Like you're going to spend about the same amount of effort anyway to succeed. But you're also a service-based industry with something like travel, and then there are things like utility warehouse and other things that people do. But you're providing a service and you're getting a commission for it. And there's nothing wrong in that. But and there's nothing wrong in building a team as well, because this network marketing, what they do is rather than go online, like Coca-Cola now is going online, spending billions. They spend billions of money on advertising. They're like, okay, you guys go out, you do the advertising, we give you a cut of whoever comes in. So the business, the parent business, the host business is actually they're gaining by not spending a lot of money on advertising. So you're doing the advertising for them and you're getting paid for it. That's the way I look at it. But we're going to be divided on that one. So I'm just going to move on. Start steps is, you want to start small. As I said, what skills do you have? And start low. Do market surveys, do people actually want this thing? Do people like it? You can, if you, and that's why, with network marketing, that's why I like it. So to start network marketing, most of them are probably less than £200 to start up, which is different from when I was going to learn how to do property. I had to pay thousands of pounds to learn how to do it. And guess what? I got stuck in that because you paid so much money. you cannot not let it work, right? Like, that was the money I was going to go and use to do masters. And I said I was going to use to learn property investing. It has to work at all costs. Now, even when it's not working, then you're stuck with it because I need to make the money back. That pressure is there. However, on things like network marketing, content creation, those ones that are available to you, what else did I say on the others, like content creation, tutoring, right? The money to you start is very negligible. Probably you're going to get a startup coach like myself. Even you don't need that, to be honest. You can just start it. Say, okay, I'm going to start doing this. Maybe a friend's daughter, I'm going to teach them. Pay me half the price. They know you're a doctor. I'll teach your child for you. It works well. You develop your systems. Okay, this works actually well. Okay, they introduce you to their friends. Guess what? You say, well, I'm only doing it for you at this rate, but I'm going to start charging these people the rate because it works. You've proven your strategy. It works. Don't do it. Please do not do it. This is where business people get a bad name. Don't do it if you can't put in the effort. Don't do it like, oh, I'm just doing them a favor. Do it halfway. That's somebody's life. That's their child's progress that you're affecting. So please don't go out and do this kind of thing in something that you're not sure and you're not ready to put the time in and the effort into it. Don't forget, entrepreneurship comes with struggles, it comes with pressure. It's very emotional as well. It's because it's a people's business. People will talk you down. They will say negative things about you. So you have to be strong and you have to be ready for it. Okay. So don't sign somebody up when you know you cannot fulfill it. That is where people get bad names for business. So anyway, so we're going back to starting low, starting small. So you're starting your network marketing is a service-based industry. There's no tie-in. You're paying maybe £200, maybe £300, maybe less. Mine is less. Hello, like if I went to Alton Towers or Chessington Resort, I'm going to pay like 3 times that for a day out. So I'm going to starve my kids for a day out just for me to try this business skill. And then you start and then you build it up gradually. As I said, there's no get rich scheme, quick scheme anyway. And even if the ones you pay tens of thousands for to learn, you're not going to come out the next day and be the richest, but you're still going to start where everybody else started from. So why don't you just start your own thing anyway? And then seek mentorship. When you can afford it, then start looking for mentorship, start looking for guides, start looking for somebody to work with. Other people I know will give people the opportunity. So I had somebody approach me once when I was doing property. He was a doctor, and I didn't know then he was having problems. I only knew later. And he'd reached out to me on like 3 social media platform sending me DMs, which I didn't see on time because then my profile was set on private. So I wasn't getting the messages quite quickly. And he was really, I just thought, who's this guy? Who's this person that's become my fan? And he put all this resume there. I'm a doctor. I've been following you. I love your work. I want to get into property. I want you to show me how to. And then I didn't know he didn't have the money. And I was like, oh, that's fine. What do you need? What do you need from me? And he said, look, I'm going to work for you for free, but I'm going to learn from you. And I said, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we collaborate? If you've got the time, you know what you're looking for, you've learned a bit from me, you go out and look for the properties. I will go out and look for the investor. That's where collaboration comes in because he had something to give me. I didn't have the time and I was happy. And if you don't ask, you're not going to get. And he was hungry, he was willing, he was desperate. And it was only later I knew he had financial problems. So these are ways you can get around things. We can't sit on our high horses and say, oh, because we're doctors, we're not going to, we're just going to, wait for things to come to us. It's never going to come to us. I'm sorry, guys. We have to go out and look for these things. I've worked in businesses as a salesperson. And I didn't tell them I was a doctor because they probably know it would not employ me. But I wanted to understand how sales work. I was like, how does this thing work? How do businesses that are getting sales, how do they make it work for them? And they knew I didn't lie that I didn't have any sales experience. They knew I was new off, I was like, well, I don't have it, but I've got the time and I'm happy to put the time in. And I would just take their calls. And even though I was rubbish at it to start with, they knew I was new. I was willing, I was learning. And even when I'd had enough and I said, you guys, you know what, the sales, it's been a pleasure working with you. I want to move on to something else now. And they said, that's fine. I'd given them enough warning. I said, by next year, I'm going into something else. So yeah, just start looking for somebody else. And I left. And a few months later, then they sent me a DM and said, you know what, we really do want you to come back. And I was shocked. So I thought it was rubbish. But it just shows how, when you're willing, when you're keen to learn, when you're hungry, people would actually come back to you for who you are, not really what you're doing. And there's a saying that goes in the world of business, and I think in the world of HR as well. You want to work with people for who they are. And I think HR people, you say you hire for attitude. You don't hire for skills, because with the right attitude, you can build the skills. You can teach people skills, but you can teach people attitude. So having the right attitude is massive. So having talked about all that, what else does, what does entrepreneurship bring to you? As I said earlier, it brings you that choice. And what does choice gives you? It gives you that abundance mentality. You lose that scarcity mindset. Oh, I'm not getting any, I'm not going to get this a job next week. Oh, well, if I don't get the job, I've got something else I'm doing. When the job comes, I'll go for the job that I want. Those kind of things, it gives you it empowers you, and you design the career that you like. You do what you follow your own path. I want to do this. When it comes, I will go for it. I don't just pick whatever comes to me, because guess what? I don't have a choice. And as I said, I've said this a few times, meaning purpose and ownership. So I'm quite glad that all the people here are novices, and I wasn't sure whether to put this on, but I thought I'd just put it on anyway, because this word entrepreneurship gets branded around. We hear it everywhere. It's just a throwaway comment. It sounds like a very sexy word that everybody hears, but I don't think people really know what the meaning is. And I thought I'll just put it on there for you. And for those that are reading, please keep reading, because I'm not going to read it out. But the words, I think the key words here are the risk. Yeah, you take risks because it is a risk. Now you want to manage that risk. And that's why I said we start small. We start with something cheap if we don't have any experience. We don't go and pay 20 grand to somebody to teach us something when we don't have any experience whatsoever in entrepreneurship, right? So we take the risks that we can manage. And 20 grand might not be anything to you. So that might be an acceptable risk to you if you don't have any experience at all. You might think, well, that risk I can take, and that's fine. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying you need to manage your risk. But then you provide a service, or you provide a product, right? Because you've identified a need, okay? And you take the risks, yeah, but you take most of the rewards as well. So that's what it is, and that's what you call business. Um, and having gone into entrepreneurship, I think medicine is easy. I think it is. And you see where the entrepreneurship mindset comes in? Medicine is so easy. You just have to turn up to work. And when people see me at work, it's like, oh, why are you always happy and smiley and jolly? I say, all I need to do is show up and I get paid, guys. How easy can life be, right? I just need to show up, make sure I do the protocol where everybody knows I didn't have to learn anything special, treat the people, and I go home and the money comes in. Entrepreneurship doesn't work that way. I could show up like 100 times. I might not get paid for it. I have to negotiate with people. I have to convince them that this, work with me and things like that. But you honestly, when you do that, when you go back into medicine, like this work is so easy, man. Like no, but the ease is that ease is where we get stuck in medicine, right? And we don't live our purpose. That ease is what makes us stuck, because we then get too comfortable, we can't leave. And that ease, we pay for it later in life, where we then realize that we've been on a path, we didn't enjoy it, we didn't live to our fullest potential, and there was more out of life we didn't get. So I will qualify that is let's be careful about it. And that's what gets us stuck. And then they even make it sweeter for us by giving us the NHS pension, which is the best pension in the whole of the UK. Yeah. Guess what? We get tied in. And then we get to our 40s, our 50s, and we realize I didn't really want this. And now I don't even want to work to my 60s. So I'm at the risk of not even getting that damn pension that I've put into since I was in my 20s or 30s, whatever time you came into the UK. So we need to balance that reasoning and make sure we're making the right decisions for ourselves. So it's the earlier pain. I would say it's short term, but it's the earlier pain for the later gain. Okay. Now this is I just mocked around with this one, to be honest, and I love it. I was the one that made it. And I used to brand myself as the medical entrepreneur at some point. I still call myself the medical entrepreneur, but not as much, because I found out that there is a book, an American book called The Medical Entrepreneur, and I didn't want to get into any copyright mess and stuff. So I thought I'll just, I'm not going to brand myself down on the big stages and stuff, but I still love the word The Medical Entrepreneur. And I just put in the things that, about entrepreneurship. And I think if I've not sold entrepreneurship to you by now, I think you're getting bored of me selling it. I love entrepreneurship. Um, and it's also, I put this on here for you to understand the difference between entrepreneurs and investors. Because people are like, oh, I want to get a side income, when people come to me. And a lot of things they're saying is they want to be investors, which is different from being an entrepreneur. So an investor is the one that would sit down and put their money into something, go to their job. They don't run the business. Somebody uses their money, brings it back. I've done that with people before when I was doing, with property, and I still do it now actually with property. Get the money, put it into something, get the returns. But when you're an investor, you need to understand the risk. And this is where people got beaten, because when people are going to talk, and I think sometimes it's not that because they want to trick you. Sometimes they're so excited about it. And I've had a bad experience myself being the person borrowing the money, where I've overhyped the opportunity because I was excited about it, and it didn't work out, and the person was really upset with me. And I didn't mean to, I wasn't out to scam them. It was just I just didn't understand the level of risk. Well, I won't say I didn't understand. It was COVID, basically. Obviously nobody expected COVID to happen, did we? So it wasn't so COVID came, and then I had to go back with my tail between my legs and go and like face them to let them know this is not, you're not going to get this return. But I made sure I gave them the money. And for me, I could sleep at night because I made sure I gave them the capital back from my own personal money. And they were not happy about it. They were like, oh, well, we want to say, well, I'm sorry, like your money was actually lost, but I'm giving you the money. And that's the kind of person I want to be. So you need to understand the risk, and if it doesn't work for you, you need to decide that you're not doing it, because the person that's selling it to you is only seeing things from their own perspective, not from your perspective. You need to understand it. And now I know better. And I've also been an investor in other people's deals, and I've got scammed before, and I've got money back out of things before. And the only lesson, I'm not allowed to give you investment advice because you have to be FCA, Financial Conduct Authority registered. But I can say from my personal experience, which I'm allowed to say, from my personal experience, I would not put money into something. I only put the amount of money I'm willing to lose, right? So if I know 20 grand is life changing for me, which I think it is for a lot of doctors, I'm not going to put it in that person because I'm not sure I can afford to lose it. But if somebody comes and says they've got a 5 grand project and it's going to give me this, oh, well, that's fine. Let's try it. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, I understand it's business. I'm not going to get my money back. There's no money that is guaranteed. They can give you personal guarantee. They can say this, they can say that. I'm sorry, it's not worth the paper it's written on. People will tell you all these things to give you reassurances. At the end of the day, you are taking a risk. It is 50-50. It could work, it might not work. It might have been working for them. So like when I was doing service accommodation, it worked brilliantly until that March 2021, when everything went to lockdown and everything changed all, overnight. Even though people are still doing Airbnb, I look at the numbers now and I just wished, I'm like, oh God, where were the numbers we were getting before? I don't even get interested in it anymore because the numbers are so like, and they are happy. They are happy. Like, oh, I'm getting this numbers. Like, yeah, yeah. You know, those were the days when we used to get really crazy numbers. So you need to be, as an investor, I would say I would just be careful where you put your money in. It's good, it's brilliant. Even an established developer, an established business person can run into trouble. It's life. Okay, so if you're going to put our money in, please just be aware of that. And also, if things go wrong, maybe I'm just saying as a business person, please be kind to the person. That person is having sleepless nights to get your money back. And sometimes there's nothing they can do. Like sometimes you don't even have any money to give you. Like unless you want to sell them on their kidneys, you can't get anything out of them. So just be wary about that. Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of the apologies to the Christians, and maybe I shouldn't use it because I know there are lots of Christians here, but it's one of the the manuals of investing. And like if you go somewhere in the business world and you see you've not read Dad Poor Dad, like you've committed the greatest crime in the world, right? I don't feel it is. I think it's a good book to read, and I think it gives you a basic understanding. Why do I think so? So if you look at the quadrant, so you've got self-employed, you've got employee, you've got business owner, you've got investors, right? So when people teach this, right, they say, oh, you want to, like the employee is the bottom of the rank of the rung of the ladder, and then you've got the self-employed, and some people even use pyramids to describe it. And you've got the business owner, you've got the investor, like they're the best, isn't it? Because you can see time, the money on the side, and you think, oh wow, I want to be an investor because that's the best. Now, going from what I told you on the last slide and the level of risk that comes to investing, you can see why you get more money. So the more the risk, the more the reward. Yeah, the more the risk, usually, the more the reward is, but not always. But roughly, people will say that. So employed is what we do when we get an NHS job. So we're an employee. Self-employed is what you do when you're a locum, right? So we, as doctors, and when we come, oh, welcome, we're just going to locum, and for us, locum is the height of everything, isn't it? But we only have 24 hours in a day, and you can't work 24 hours in a day. So that's why you have your cap there. And as a business owner, obviously you've got the business, but you don't have the time. Yeah. Investor is what gives you the time freedom, okay? But usually what they say is you want to be an investor when you have a level of experience of the industry. Or you start investing little and then you learn as you go and then you invest more. So like now, if somebody brings me a property deal and he says going to make this, I can say like, this is all BS. I'm not going to make that money. Or I might make it. You do make it sound good. Let me see if I can afford the money. I'll say, well, I can only give you this amount of money because it's all I can lose. I might get it back. I might not get it. I might get it back. Who knows? But the real thing you want is leverage. That is the one I would is my is the buzzword here. Okay, so none is better than the other. If you're an employee and you don't have the mindset to be a business owner investor, please stay as an employee. At least you're guaranteed your pension to a degree, right? You know you're going to go to work, you know you're going to come back. You're not going to be stressed out. You don't have the time to put in. Stay as an employee. It's not the end of the world for you to be, to be the other one, to be, if you're not any of the other ones. Self-employed, um, after doing it as a locum, I think it's a negative mentality we get about self-employed. Oh, we've got, I've got the freedom, we've got the control. You do to some degree until the day you fall ill and you don't have any money and you realize that, you know what, I met a nurse the other day, bless her. I used to locum, so I've always been a locum, by the way. And but for me, the locum was for two reasons. One, it gave me the flexibility because my husband is an intensive care consultant. So you can imagine like he's very busy with his work. Secondly, we didn't have any family around us and we needed childcare. Childcare stressed me through so much throughout my training. And I just couldn't wait to get my CCT, and that's why I did GP training so I can become a locum. So it wasn't because I thought the money was good. In fact, I don't think the money is worth what the amount of risk that we take as locums. But anyway, it was what was available for me, and I knew it was a means to an end. And thirdly, with locum as well. So the other thing is you can only work so many hours. Like by the time you work, how many hours, you're tired. Your health is going to be suffering. You can't go on holidays in peace. You go on holiday, you're counting the hours. You come back, you're working like, like there's no tomorrow. And now the government has even stopped, made it even further less lucrative because you can't do it through a limited company. You have to be proper self-employed. So anyway, this lady, we used to work together. And she just disappeared. Obviously I locum, so I wasn't keeping tab on her. And she came. I saw her the other day, and she was limping. It was, how you look at the nurse and you're like, I can't remember this lady used to limp before. But anyway, I didn't see anything. And then as we were talking and we warmed up, and then when you're having your banters and everything, and I said, "Oh, where have you been?" Like, well, how locums always say, "Oh, you've been making money, isn't it? You didn't come back here and everything." She said, "No, I've been ill." I said, "What?" So she was going to work. She's a locum. She was crossing in front of the hospital, and she got hit by a bus, and she was out of work. She had a fracture, a compound fracture, needing like levels of surgery, skin loss, everything. And she couldn't work she was bedbound for about 3 months. She lost weight, she lost muscle power. She was like, she couldn't have a bath for maybe 6 months because, her husband, it was only her husband had stopped working. Anyway, all these things happened. And she said, and the sad part is I'm local, so I didn't have any money. in that period. And she's still limping. And she said, look, I had to just come back to work because I can't afford not to work. Now, anybody on here, please, if you're doing locum, please, please, please go and get financial advice and make sure you get injury sickness cover for when you're not working. Even if it's not, even if it's £1,000 you get a month because of your sickness cover, how much do you pay? Probably going to pay maybe 50, £60 a month, maybe £80, depends on how much money you need back. But for that security, and he said, I wished I had just gotten that. So even if the only thing you get from me today is go and get advice if you're self-employed or if you're locum, make sure you get financial cover. I'm happy. And I said, I'm just going to keep shouting this to everybody that I meet. If you don't start entrepreneurship, I can sleep. Because I know it's not for everybody, but please don't expose yourself and your family to that kind of risk. It's not worth it. So we need to be careful about that. Business owner is good, but you need the skills to run a business, right? You leverage other people's time to build your business, but as I said earlier, you need the systems and processes. So the only good thing on this other side of the slide is the leverage, yeah? The leverage. You're leveraging time, you're leveraging freedom, people's time, people's money to grow. And that's why I also love network marketing, because that also falls on that side of the quadrant. You're leveraging other people's structures, other businesses' structures. You don't have to do the structures yourself. There is the risk though, because you're relying on somebody else's systems and processes, and anything can happen. But yeah, so that's the word. We want to leverage. The more you can leverage, the more you can buy yourself. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you too much. So I'm just going to go quickly about my story. So how did I start? Oh God, what have I done? How did I start? So I went to medical school in Nigeria. And strike is a part of going to medical school in Nigeria. For anybody on here, I've seen some Nigerian names. Strike is a part is a part of school in Nigeria. You need, you study medicine for 6 years plus X. X could be any number of months or years, right? So one of the strikes happened. So there was a strike just before I registered. So they called me 2000 set, but no, 1999 set, or I can't remember now anymore. But we didn't start, we lost like a few months. So we only came to start university the year after, right? So the year I started university wasn't actually the year of my admission slip. That aside, then we got into medical school, did first year or sometime into first year, first year, and then second year, then there was a strike again. I'm like, oh God, what on earth is this? And I've always like kind of baked at home, and I mean, I used to help my mom do some selling and stuff, but nothing I used to get money out of personally. So I went to go and learn how to bake, and it was just because I just liked baking. I just enjoyed baking. So I thought I'll just go to this baking class. There was this Catholic, for anybody that went to UI, Catholic organization called Immoral. And they just did a baking course for during the strike, because some people will not go home because you don't know when the strike is going to end, right? So say you lived like 6 hours from university, you didn't want to go home, and then they say, oh, the strike has been called off the next day. So it's not like the strikes in this country that are very civil, right? People say, oh, we're going to strike for, I was just laughing when they said we're going to strike, this is what we're going to do, but people are going to be on the ward emergency covers. Like, that's not strike. Strike is when everything is shut down, like proper shutdown. Nothing is happening, just rats and cockroaches on the wards. So anyway, there was another strike, and I just said, I'll just go and take up this baking lessons. I got bored of reading. You read, and then at some point you can't read anymore. You've got so much ahead of the syllabus anyway, and it doesn't make sense to me anymore at that point. So I did baking lessons, and then when I baked, after that, everybody was like, "Oh wow, your cake is really nice." Oh, da, da, da. Even my dad was like, every time he sees me, like, "Could you have cake for me?" I was like, "Okay." So I used to become the cake person. My mom has visitors at home, so for like I go and bake some cake for my visitors and everything. So I used to bake, and everybody used to really get wild. So one day I just said, "Hang on." I can actually start making money from this cake thing. So I then decided I was going to start my cake business. And I just started to, when my friends asked me, I think I had a birthday party or something, and so, oh, your cake is really nice. Can you bake for me? I said, yeah, I can bake for you. Like, I have it, I can bake for you if you pay me X amount of money. And that's how my business started. And it grew really well. It grew so much that, I became quite known, and my sister joined the business as well. We kind of started about the same time. She went to a proper cake school because she was affected by that pre-university hold up as well. So she went for a proper cake school, and they used to make like proper wedding cakes. And yeah, that's how we started a cake business. We started small. We did what you call bootstrapping. We earned some money. We put some money in. To be honest, my parents' money were part of it as well. But we got so big that we were then like if they wanted to have a conference in the university, somebody just told me that, oh, we want to start, we want to do a conference. Can you bake? And I didn't have the like the manpower, but I just said, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got home and I called my mom. I said, they want to bake, 100 and something or 200 cakes. My mom just got, yeah, okay, come on, let's go. Yeah, my mom is a yes person, and that's how I started my cake and pastry business. The next thing, somebody wanted to do were baking, and then they asked us to do the baking, and then they said, oh, by the way, we need to arrange the hall, we need to organize this. I said, and my sister said, yeah, we can do it. And I looked at her, she was like, yeah, don't worry. And then we knew somebody that used to do event decorations and stuff, and then they wouldn't get the kind of clients that we had, and we said we'll just oversee him, make sure he does the standard that we want, and he came with the everything and all that, and he set up and we just directed him, and that's how we went into events management as well. And everything obviously died by the time I came to the UK, because I wanted to be this, amazing doctor. And I said lifestyle products there, yeah, because then by then I used to come to the UK for holidays, because my husband was here. I was married by the time I was getting to that level. And when I come, oh no, before I came, I used to sell things. So one of my mom's friends used to bring things from the UK to sell. And I just used to, yeah, people came to my room anyway to come and buy cakes and everything. And when it was coming to Valentine's, there's money in Valentine's in Nigeria, Valentine's Day. I had all these things. I, made hampers. I got things from other people. So I didn't just do the cakes, and we used to do delivery. So the first few people or people that pay us more money will make sure we deliver the Valentine's product at the strike of midnight. And, oh God, just make your customers happy and the money will come. And, we had a lovely time doing that. And, it was fulfilling for us and for our customers, which was good. So I came to the UK. I just thought, oh, do you know what? I'm now in the UK. I'm this UK doctor. I'm just going to focus on my education, my, exams and everything. And those were the most miserable years of my life. And one day I was on maternity leave for my second child, and that's when the second junior doctor strike happened. I don't know if anybody was in the UK at that time. I think my business grew in strikes, isn't it? And I was just at home and I was watching the TV. By then I zeroed. I knew I wasn't staying in this game. Like I was going to start my business, but I didn't just know what to do yet. And I was looking at my colleagues on the WhatsApp group. They were all getting excited. We're going to go on the strike. Da, da, da. We're underpaid. We're overworked. And I was looking at it, and then I just listened to the news, and they were telling the details of what they wanted, and all they were fighting for was maybe 5%, maybe less. That's what I was like, all this headache for this amount of pay rise that the tax man is still going to eat. I know there were other things, working conditions, which we know the government never does. It just messed things up even more. I just thought, do you know what, this is it. I've had enough now, and stuff. And that's how I then just went back into business. And I think for me it was property, because we've always wanted to go into property, and I just thought, oh, let me finish my training, let me finish my training. But yeah, we went into property with my husband, and we had a house. Then we rented it, went through mentorship. Then I went to Airbnb because it was the most leverageable. There was more money, there was more risk. Unfortunately, I didn't understand it. I didn't. There wasn't. The risk that we had during COVID was unprecedented, so I couldn't imagine that there would be a risk like that. And COVID came, lockdown came, and that was another downer for me. And I thought I learned from that, and I said, okay, we came back out, and I said, look, I'm just going to do consultancy and working with people who want to buy. And during the property year, so that was a means to an end actually, because I understood. I actually do love teaching. I do love speaking, and I do love mentoring people. And I did a few, informal mentorships. So remember when I said start small? So, from people knowing I do property, they come and talk to me when they want to leave medicine or they want to earn a side income. And I did, informal, talking to them. And I decided actually I want to do this properly because I feel there's a need, there's a gap here. And that's how I went to become a business strategist, just to know how to do it properly. Because I know when people make that decision, it's a big deal for them. They're leaving their job, or they're investing a lot of money, and I didn't want to give them advice based on my personal opinion. I thought if I made this a bit more structured, I feel better for doing it rather than just giving them advice based on what I knew. And that's where I became, and that's how I got to where I'm going to get to. So I love this slide saying, well, yeah, we've heard everything. I want to earn money now. Um, and I think that's what, people will be thinking about now. So I've put a bit on here because this is not a sales pitch. And I know people are going to ask, and I just said, look, I'm just going to put this on here for anybody who's interested. We can always have a conversation later. I talked to Funke about it as well. I said, look, we can always do that later if there's enough need for it. So these are the things I do now. Business strategy, startup and growth, travel business. That's a network marketing business, but I help other people to start. So I do a travel business myself, but other people can join me and they can start their own travel business as well, where you can get commission for booking travel, which is great. You don't have to buy any products or anything. It's just there and it's very low startup. So people that usually benefit from this kind of things are, I mean, doctors can benefit from it, but also the other group more recently find are the spouses of the doctors who are here. They're not medics, or even they're medics, but they can't get a job. They want to start doing something. This is a great way to start. And there's one of my friends. What she does, she sells the travel to her husband's colleagues, which is great. He's got the colleagues that don't have the time. They have the money. They want to travel, and she sells to them, which is that's a good idea. And then obviously I do property investing consultancy for the people that have the money for it. So I love the slide, the block. The block is time, isn't it? You're thinking, well, I'm already overworked and I've got kids and I've got that. And as I said earlier, this is not for you don't want to do it. Nobody's saying you have to do it, right? But if you're thinking you want to do it, like I was in 2015, and you're like, oh, how am I going to find the time? And the time is never going to be there. The other thing I should probably put on here is the money. The next thing is the money. And well, the reason I didn't put it on here actually was money, the options for money, which I've talked about earlier. But time is the one you can't do anything about. You know, the reality is we're doctors, we're working shifts, we've got kids, maybe we don't have kids, we've got other dependents. How am I going to find the time? But I'm here, Funke is there, the other doctors that are there, they've started it. We all have 24 hours in a day. So something is definitely missing. If you think you don't have the time and all those people have the time, then something is missing. But the reality bringing it back home, for me, and I'm sure if you speak to other people, entrepreneurship teaches you how to focus, how to time block. How even if you didn't have a job, like if you, I with the networking group, I speak to a lot of like full-time business owners and entrepreneurs. They don't have the time either. Nobody has the time, right? But it's about refocusing and prioritization. Okay, so we say we don't have time, but we have time to watch Netflix. We have time to watch the news. We have time to be on the call with our friends for ages. And if that's your priority, that's what you like. That's fine. But I wouldn't then say I don't have the time to do this because I really want to do it. It means that you don't really want to do it. It'll be nice to have. So it's a mindset shift. It's possible. People are doing it, and it's having to look about, do I really need this? If I need this, then I have to make the time for it. Now, the reason I put this one back is more recently. So I told you I was a locum, right? And I did locum since I finished my GP training, years ago. Um, and my kids are now more grown up. They're going to school. They can go to school by themselves if I choose not to. I still choose to drop them off and pick them up sometime. Um, so I decided, you know what? I need to get my life back on track. I do want to get my track, and that's why I said earlier that some people don't want to leave medicine. There's something about medicine they love. There's something in there that you still want to do. You're not ready to give up that identity or that job or that whatever it is that's holding you back to medicine. So I got to this stage and I thought, I've had enough of this locum. Plus, locum was now becoming more stressful for me with all these rules that the governments were making. Locum dried up like suddenly overnight, GP locum for months. And that's when a lot of people emigrated to Canada. I don't even know when that happened because one, I was busy doing my business, obviously. But the second thing is, I'd been a locum in a surgery for such a long time that I didn't even hear about it. And I didn't lose my locum. And I think what I want to bring up from here is when you're locuming or when you're tied in time by doing something. So, say I said earlier, I don't have a job, I'm going to tutor my friend. Please do it intentionally. Put your effort into it. Make sure you do it well. Whatever you do, do it well. I'm locuming, I'm doing it well. I'm not doing it and giving that, oh, that she's just a locum kind of mentality. I'm doing it and I'm applying myself to it. You know, And I think those things, when I locum in a place, the first thing they're asking me is, oh, we do want you to stay. I said, no, I don't want to stay. I'm not at that point in my life yet. Now, when I was ready to go, I've never worked as a regular GP before. And I was now looking for jobs. I've always wanted to go back into some leadership management, but I never did all this FLMN and all this kind of courses that everybody does. And I thought, how am I going to start this? And every job description I read, oh, has to have had this, have to have had that, and everything. I said, hey, I'm never going to get this job, so am I just going to be salaried? But I don't really want to be salaried. I'm going to be miserable. So this job came up, and I don't know why. I don't know what it was about the job description that just made me enjoy. One, they were not particular that you have had to have had leadership experience, which was good. But all the experience, everything on that person's spec, guess how I filled it? From entrepreneurship. Management skills, I just use entrepreneurship. Structure, whatever it is, I just use my experiences from entrepreneurship. Luckily, I had done a management course, leadership course. It was a 1 day CBD day that I did. But that was as a locum. I mean, I lost a day by doing that. Nobody paid me for it. But I knew I wanted to do this. And I thought, let me just start putting things in my CV. So I just went for it. It was the occupational medicine people that were organizing. I just thought I'll just go for it. I thought I just, when I turn up, I just look weird. It's like, why are you here? Who are you? I just want to learn about management and leadership. And that was the only management and leadership training I had on my CV 1 day. And I got the job just by that. But I think the things that sold me, I stood out. I wasn't just the run-of-the-mill locum who has worked in 1,000,001 surgeries but had nothing else to write on their CV. I had so many things else to write on my CV. I also sold myself like crazy. That's one thing we don't do. But as an entrepreneur, you learn to brag. People lie, like yeah, people lie, but you would learn to brag. You learn to like, yeah, I ran this company, I did this, I did that. And my interview was more of, I think they just wanted to say, who is this crazy person behind the CV? And it was just from one thing to the other. It was more like a discussion. I was like, oh, so you've done this as well. Look at me again. Wow. Okay, you just okay. So, what was your research experience? Luckily, I had signed up with a private research company, umbrella company, because I was looking for extra sources of income, right? And that was the only research experience I had in the last, 1 or 2 years, apart from the one I did in medical school. And that was my research. That was what I used as my research experience. And all these things, it just teaches you how to be creative, how to, get something out of nothing, and you're just selling yourself. And that's what a CV is. A CV is not listing. A CV is sell yourself to the person that they think you're the best thing ever. If they didn't give you this job, there's nobody else that can do the job. That's what you're doing. Right. So you want to do it ethically, but at the same time, I knew I could do the job. I was like, I've seen all these clinical leads. There's nothing else they do. I have much better experience, clinical experience than any other person because I've worked in out of hours. I've worked in, different surgeries. I get in a surgery this morning. I have to adapt. I've never worked there before. I need to adapt. I need to know what they're doing. I'm learning as I go. And those are the kind of things I put on my CV. I've worked as a locum, and things that, how do you adapt to, or how do you manage difficult situations? All those kind of weird questions they ask you. You find a way of putting it. And for me, that was the icing on the cake. And this is more recent. 3, 4 years ago, I wouldn't have ever dreamt that I would get a job by virtue of being an entrepreneur. And that goes to show that there's so much to get from entrepreneurship. So this is one of the last slides. There's a few more slides, but this is one of the last slides. I think the big question here is, are we looking to thrive or are we looking to survive? So are we just looking to do a day-to-day job, get by, hope nothing happens, or do we want to thrive? And that's a question only you can answer. There is this Japanese philosophy of called ikigai, and it's about you finding your deeper meaning of purpose. And I thought no better people to understand that than the people here. We've come to this country. I think when we're coming, we want to survive. We come in survival mode, right? We just want to get a job. I just want to get on the NHS. I want to get this. I want to get that. At some point, our purpose for living has to come out, or else you're going to then get to that midlife crisis. What is actually sometimes we've never even thought about it. We've never actually sat down and think, what do I really, really want to do? Who do I really want to be? If I was watching people read out my obituary. What do I want them to say? Do I want them to say, oh, Folake was the person that worked 20 hours a week and a day, and she brought in, she cared for her family? If that's what you want, that's fine. But not everybody wants that. And that's where you look at what is your real purpose. My purpose is I want to make a difference to the the lives of healthcare workers. I think we're the most intelligent, and I think we're the most hardworking, and I think we're the most trampled upon, disrespected, one of the most disrespected professions by politicians. But I think it's also because we've lost that sense of ownership and power. And I think one of the ways we can get that power back is to be happy and to find what we like. And that is why I like this diagram. It's and don't get me wrong. Look here. What can you be paid for? You don't have to do it as a volunteer. You don't have to do it as a charity. Nobody's telling you cannot be paid for um bringing value to people's lives. That's what business is. You get paid for bringing value. You get paid for bringing the solution. How much more, like, you just think as a healthcare worker, I bring joy, I bring health into people's lives. I bring people back from literally they're about to die, for people that do acute specialty. And look at the pittance they pay you. And yet somebody who does dances on TikTok and shakes their indecencies online, they get trend, and then they're being paid so much money. But I think it's also because we have been trained to have this, oh, we're just here to help people. No, we're here to get paid for helping people as well, because people will still spend that money. So this ikigai, look it up. You can read about, there's a book about it. And I think for everybody that is here, that would really help you in your quest to thrive in the NHS, but not in the NHS, also for life. Because we're not here to survive, we're here to thrive. We're just as good as the next person. So just a quick recap, we've talked about, how the medicine and entrepreneurship, how they work together, how they can make you thrive, the strengths you bring in, and how you can actually start doing something, and I like that last quote, thriving isn't about choosing, it's about designing a career that allows you to do both and do them well. Okay, so let's make a change. Yeah, let's change the narratives of the IMGs in this country, not only by being the best. We are the best. We never get the accolade for being the best. And they dumb us down, and you then start to doubt yourself. You can't doubt yourself when you're empowered. You can't doubt yourself when you know you have options. You can't doubt yourself when you know there's a solution, right? There's a silver lining. Like, the way you walk is different from the person who thinks, oh, please, whatever you can do, just give me this job. I'll be the best person ever. No, you're talking to them like colleagues. You're talking to them like, I've got my cards, you've got your cards. Let's have a chat. Yeah. And then for people that want to start something, think about one skill. Yeah, I've talked for almost 2 hours now, but 1.5 hours actually, one skill or one idea that you want to start building, and reach out to me if you think I can be of help. I do free, like my friend I said I spoke to, I try and give like 30 minutes free to people, just to help them rethink what they're thinking. If it's something that is worth moving forward with, then I can decide to help you if you can afford it. If it's something I can't help you with, I'll signpost you to where you can get help free, and then we can, and at least you can get your life going that way.